for this time of worship and being together. God, I pray for Sam as he's delivering his message that you'll just be with him, be present in this room, and that for the students, everybody in this room, that you'll just open their hearts to hear the words that you've given him. God, I pray for our time in groups, that you'll just deepen our relationship with you and with each other. And God, I pray for just the fire and the sickness and everything that's going on in our community, in our world, that you'll just be there through that, provide peace for those who need it, provide strength to those who need it, and just we thank you that you're always there and that you're a faithful God. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
This trip was insane as the students worked like crazy. They were in great fellowship with one another and had a common vision of impacting children's lives. It was fun to see how they interacted with the community as they went out into the community to do home visits and to interact with people in their homes and to come back with stories of, this lady or that individual, this man, that kid. Just seeing the amazed look on their face as God used our students in powerful ways was really encouraging.
Seeing God move this week through the kids, watching them have so much joy, even though they're in a less fortunate situation, has been incredible.
Biggest way that I've seen him move is through the people that we saw in the community. Even though it wasn't necessarily the safest place in the world, it was probably one of the most joyous places that I have ever seen and experienced.
I saw God work through us this week. Is how like our not so outgoing group members really got out there in the community and the classrooms, and just seeing how much joy the students have for God and education was really inspiring.
Seeing these people with nothing but still having just such an incredible amount of joy and not letting the bad stuff drag them down has just really inspired me to find my joy in Jesus and never give up hope.
I just really want to be able to serve so openly and serve anyone, anywhere that I am, and just love on everyone the way that we have been so loved.
Kenya 2021. I know it seems really weird that at some point we're going to be able to travel again, but I promise you guys we are going to travel. And so this trip is actually open to only the juniors and seniors, so I apologize for the rest of you guys. You will have your time in the sun, but Kenya 2021, if you'd like to be a part of that, we have an impact intensive on December 5th. So an impact intensive December 5th. And so if you'd like to be a part of that, if you'd like to be a part of this trip, learn more about the trip, what I'd love for you to do is sign up at summit.nv/global. Let's see, you guys see that right at the bottom. summitnv.org/global. It's going to be an amazing trip. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love just watching the videos and seeing God move and work. Here's the other announcement I got for you guys, that next week we are not meeting. We're not meeting next week, so remind yourselves, you can come to the church, but I will not be here. We will not be here. But next week we're not meeting. Instead, I want you guys to enjoy time with your family. It's going to be Thanksgiving. Enjoy that time. So we're not meeting next week. And then the final thing is this, that I understand these things that we have to wear over our face are sometimes uncomfortable. They're hot. They just make us feel not great. Well, ultimately, those things that we have to wear help to protect each and every one of us. They help for us to show ultimately that we care, that we love people. And so it's allowing us to be together and to worship. So what I would say to you guys is do not take your masks off. Even though I understand it's uncomfortable, there's times where you want to pull them down, please do not do that. Whether you're here in the worship center or you're in the loft, keep your mask on while you're singing during worship, keep them on while you're hanging out and playing around. Ultimately, that's what's allowing us to be able to be together in that. So just be mindful of all that. So with that out of the way, let's jump into our message. So we're on our final week, guys, of free people. And ultimately, what we've been reading about and hearing about in God's word is that we are free people. We're people that have an opportunity to live in freedom, but at the same time, there's certain rules, there's certain guidelines, there's certain things that we have to abide by. And so every day, there's countless rules that guide our lives. There's obvious ones like, school rules. No, you guys aren't allowed to run in the hallways. You're not allowed to push and shove. You can't be on your phone. There's sometimes even, for some of you, there are house rules that your parents have set a curfew for you, that you're not able and allowed to be out past a certain time, even though some of us like to push the envelope on that. Or there's even laws such as a speed limit that's there to help keep you safe and keep you from ultimately getting to an accident or even worse. And there's other laws that keep us from doing things like killing someone, right? It's the typical things. But our lives are also dictated by rules we don't always like or even think about. Laws of gravity, right? That most of us don't think about the fact that when we jump, we're going to come right back down. But I promise you, no matter from what height you jump, you're going to come flying back down to earth. We have general social norms such as, hey, don't be a jerk. Don't point and stare. You should hold the door for someone that comes up behind you. Or some of the, more moral rules, like, hey, I want you to do what's right. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't betray, don't mock, don't be cruel to others. There's certain things that a lot of times we're kind of like, we just unconsciously do, that there are certain guidelines and rules. Well, in the real world, unlike in movies, unlike in TV shows, there's consequences for breaking rules. That a lot of times when we watch something, we see that someone broke the rules and it's like, it's all good, it's all cool. And for some of us, we've been breaking rules so long that we kind of think about it as, well, it's all good. I haven't been caught yet, so I can just keep pushing the envelope more and more and more. But here's the deal. Breaking a law ultimately will lead to a punishment. Trying to break the law of nature will lead to you, which law of nature being gravity, will ultimately lead to you getting hurt. It'll ultimately lead to you coming crashing down to earth. That if you jump off your roof, even if you're trying to jump into a pool, at some point, it's not going to end well. It's not going to go well. But I know some of you guys are like the extreme type, and so you're all about pushing the envelope. But the deal is, in those moments, it's going to lead to something bad. However, breaking rules in our social circles ultimately they'll lead to a negative impact with friends. And what happens is when we push the envelope with our friends and push the rules and we have a negative impact, ultimately what's going to happen is that it leads to conflict. And conflict can be in a variety of different ways. Maybe you have conflict with someone in authority. Your parents, guardians, whoever you go to, that they gave you a curfew. And you ultimately thought, hey, it's too early. Like, I have to be in bed by, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Like, no way. There's a sport game on. There's something like, I want to stay up, hang out. Or maybe in school, the authority figure is your teacher or your principal, and they've basically said, hey, I don't want you to be goofing off, but you and your friends are kind of giggling in the background and you're doing different things. You guys know who you are. Or maybe it's one of your leaders. Your leader called you out because you're the type of person that just like, I'm going to live my life my way. I'm going to do this the exact way that I want. And your leader called you out on your stuff, and you basically were like, no, I can't respect that person. You know, maybe you have conflict with a friend. They just got the new iPhone 12 Pro Max, or, you know, they have this brand new basketball hoop, or, you know, they're rocking some Yeezys. Like, whatever it is, you're jealous of your friends. And because of your jealousy, there's a sense of conflict. And it gets even worse when somehow you and your friend are the same size and somehow those Yeezys ended up in your feet and not your friend's foot. But maybe it's the conflict that you have with your friend is that you said something hurtful. You did something hurtful. Or maybe there's just an overall misunderstanding and a miscommunication. So basically what I'm asking is, have you been in conflict with someone this week? Have you had a moment where, whether it be today or in this last week, that you've been in conflict with someone? Where you guys have just been at each other's heads over something that seems minimal. Or maybe it's something a lot bigger. Here's the deal, conflict is unavoidable. It's just a part of life, but we need to know what to do when we get angry, when we get frustrated. Instead of us going to that person and saying the most hurtful thing back, why don't we go to them and talk to them and say, hey, what you said earlier really hurt me. What you said basically struck a chord, and I want to talk about it. We need to know what to do next when we're the one who hurt someone else. Maybe we're the ones who said something hurtful. Maybe we're the ones who did something hurtful. What do we do? James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3, it's on the screen. This is what it says. It says that what causes fights and quarrels among you, don't they come from your desires that battle within? You desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive. Because you ask with wrong motives, that may spend what you get on your pleasures. You see, let's break this down, what James is trying to say here. He's saying that people fight. And a lot of times, people will fight a lot. Maybe it's a sibling. For you and your sibling, it seems like you guys are always at each other's throats. That no matter what the other person does, you just can't do the right thing. Or maybe we see it as that ultimately, if I disagree with someone, that I hate them. But here's the deal. Disagreeing with someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're not being loving. But many of our conflicts happen because there's this misunderstanding that, hey, that person said something that I don't agree with, so they must hate me. That person basically is doing things that I don't agree with, that I don't like, so I'm just going to shun them aside instead of lovingly going to them and speaking truth and love. We haven't taken the time to think about, how are my actions ultimately going to affect that person? What are the things that I'm doing and what effect are they going to have on the person that I interact with? Selfishness and jealousy, it's what leads to conflict. I'll let you guys in a little secret. We all are selfish. From a very early age, and this is what's kind of a cool thing that, you know, with my son Ashton, I learned this very early on, that he figured out that if he cries, he'll get what he wants. Because for mom and dad, we just want to figure out a way, how can we get this kid to stop crying and stop making noise, stop just being obnoxious in our mind. And once he figured this out, that, hey, if I cry, if I throw a tantrum enough that mom and dad are going to give me what I want, he continues to do it over and over and over again. But here's the deal. That selfishness, that desire for us to get what we want never leaves us. It's not something that when we do only when we're babies. No, it's something that we always are doing over and over and over again. We always want to get our way, to be right, to have what someone else has, to ultimately be the best, to be pushing the envelope. You know, those desires that we have are what lead to conflict, selfishness. But here's the deal, we can't love others well, and we can't ultimately give of ourselves if we're constantly jealous and acting selfish at the same time. It just can't work. What also we see is that James says that we scheme to get what we want. It's pretty amazing when you put it all together how easy it is to see some of you guys in your element. And what I mean by that is, I want that Xbox X series, so suddenly my Xbox One S isn't working anymore. I don't know how that, hammer got to the top of it and everything else. Oh, I don't know how something got shoved in the CD drawer. I don't know, but somehow I need one. Or, when it tells you, hey, please do not turn off while update's happening, yoink. You figure out, what do I need to do to get that brand new Xbox X series. By the way, if I get any calls from parents telling me that you guys somehow ruined your Xbox One S because Pastor Sam said, oh, hey, if I do this, then I'm going to get a new one. Not on me. I didn't give you guys that idea. But we can't love others while we're manipulating them, while we're making demands, while we're pressuring people to get ultimately what we want. That's not going to allow us to love others. And here's the deal. The other thing that James is pointing out to us is he's saying that our motives are wrong. He's reminding us that God doesn't honor selfish motives. That if we're going at something the wrong way for the wrong reasons, God's not going to honor that. We're not going to be blessed for it. And a lot of times we just need to check ourselves and ask ourselves, hey, why do I want this so bad? Why do I want to be on varsity team? Why do I want to be at the top athlete on my team? Why do I want that you fill in the blank? What are my motives? Why do I want it? Because we can't truly be loving while we're being self-serving. And it kind of reminds me of in high school, my senior year, I was all about, my only focus was to be captain on the football team. And the only reason I wanted to be captain on the football team is so that it's the cool thing, right? You get to wear that C on your jersey. It's an awesome thing. Everyone wants to be that at that point. Everyone, the younger guys look up to you. You're the man. That's what I wanted. So I did absolutely everything possible to try to make that happen. I was the type of guy that, I'm going to go work out by myself. I'm going to do and focus on myself instead of helping and looking at the younger guys and be like, hey, how can I pour into this other person? How can I be a blessing to someone else? So instead of asking my teammates, hey, do you want to come to the gym with me and work out? I was doing it on my own. I had this selfish ambition that I don't want anyone else to get better. I want to be the best so that way I can become captain. And it kind of came to a head when, ultimately I didn't become captain. Yes, I was on the leadership of the team and all that, but didn't become captain. And when I asked our coach why, he told me this. He said, well, you never once showed what it means to be a leader, to be a captain. You were doing all these things on your own because you wanted yourself to look good. You were pointing out your own game tapes. You were pointing out your own areas where you were succeeding and doing well. These other guys, they were doing the heavy-duty work. They were spending the time with the freshmen and getting them up to speed. They were literally pouring into other people while you were off doing your own thing. You see, I was self-serving, and that isn't a way to be loving. What James is ultimately describing is he's describing me-centered. That it's all about me. Me, myself, and I, right? That Jesus' law of love says for us to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our mind, with everything that we've got. It also says that we need to love others as ourselves. That when we love God first and we're loving others, it ultimately results in the whole of the law coming together. It ultimately results in that, hey, we're living the way that God has set forth for us. So in the law of love, Jesus didn't say love yourself and love only yourself. He's telling us to love God, love others as ourselves. And the only way that we can follow his law is to do just that. We can't follow the law of love and be me-centered. We can't be focused on ourselves. We can't live selfishly. But obviously over the last 2 weeks, and now this third week, I've been telling you guys, hey, you're free, right? You're able to live in freedom. And yes, you're free to do whatever you guys like. I'm telling you that right now. You can do absolutely anything that you want. You're free to be selfish. You're free to speak badly of someone else, to gossip. You're free to throw all sorts of shade and just judgment at other people. You're free to be right now bitter, arrogant, cruel, resentful. You're free to be impatient, just rude. See, the thing is, you're free to do all those things. But ultimately, as a follower of Christ, as a Christian, we're called to more. You see, the deal is, even though we're free to do whatever we want, because it's not going to change how God feels about us. That he basically says, I'm going to love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. There's nothing that you can do that can change the love I have for you. Because it's not about what you've done, it's what he's already done for us. But as followers of Christ, as I said, we're called to more because of what he's done for us. That ultimately is what motivates us, that pushes us, that causes us to strive to want to live out a life of love. It comes from this deep appreciation and this deep love for what God has done for us. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think the alternative is to me-centered thinking? How do you avoid just that unnecessary conflict that seems to constantly be happening over and over and over again? How do you resolve the conflicts that have already happened to you? And then, how do we do it all? How do we start to live a life according to the law of love? What I want you guys to do is I want you to notice something that in this next passage, that I would first want you to see what Jesus says, and then I want you to see what he does. So in John chapter 15, verse 12 through 13, this is what it says. It says that my command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And then 1 John 3:16, here's what we see Jesus did. This is how we know what love is. Jesus laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. Wow. I mean, Jesus is God in the flesh. He has all the power, all the freedom, all the ability, and all the authority to do whatever he wants. He could have literally said, you know what? You guys have messed up. I'm over this. And instead, what did he do? He gave up his life for us. Every person in this room here in the worship center, every single person up in the loft, every single person on this earth, Jesus gave up his life for you. Because Jesus ultimately chose to give up his freedom so that we could live a life that was worthy, so that we could live a life that was truly living in freedom. Although he was God, he chose to humble himself by inhabiting a human body here on earth. He chose to give up his own life, submitting to the torture, to the death, to all the things that we constantly celebrate and talk about around Easter season. Jesus did all of that for you and me. And why? Because ultimately his great love for us, through his life, through his death, and through his resurrection, Jesus realized that it's not about me, it's about all of you. That he realized that by him giving up his freedom, it allows us to really live. And here's what selfless sacrificial love looks like. 1 Peter 2:24, that he himself bore our sins in his body on the cross, so that we might die to sins and live for righteousness. By his wounds we have been healed. It means that Jesus wanted us to be free from sin. He wanted us to be free from condemnation, from the ultimate judgment of that sin forever. He wanted us to be free to live a full and abundant life right here, right now. He freely gave up his freedom. He modeled what it means to love God, to love others, by loving you and me. Free people give up their freedoms for others. And it's not because they have to, but because they ultimately choose to love. Free people are willing to sacrifice, to give up of their freedoms because they love. So when have you put others first? Were you the first person to apologize when you and your friends got into a fight? Or maybe when you and your parents got into a disagreement, were you the first to apologize? When else did you put others first? Did you decide, you know what, even though I'm angry, I'm not going to respond in anger. Even though I have that great comeback that would really get them, I'm not going to do it. Or maybe you chose to listen instead of speaking. It seems so many times we're like, hey, I want to talk. And little do we know that person's had the worst day possible. And if we just spend 5 minutes just listening, that goes a long way. Or maybe we've put others first because we ultimately decide, I'm going to choose to wear a mask. I'm going to choose to social distance. I'm not feeling well, so I'm going to stay home for a little bit. We do that because we care about others. We're putting others first. We're not thinking about ourselves, our own comfort, our own way of doing things. When have others put you first? Has it been an adult figure? Someone who just seems to always put your needs, your wants, your desires before their own. Maybe that person did something difficult or uncomfortable because they showed that they ultimately love you. Or maybe they gave you or said something that was meaningful. How have you been putting yourself first? Maybe you said some hurtful things because someone did something to you, so you just needed to one-up them. Maybe you purposely went out of your way to ignore someone because, hey, they're not cool. They sit at the loser table, so I'm just going to ignore them. Maybe you mocked, talked badly, you lied about someone, you just ultimately decided, I'm going to be stubborn, I'm going to be difficult, I'm going to stomp my foot because I didn't get my way. Is that how you put yourself first? Yeah, sure, we're free to act the way that we want. We're free to harm the relationships that we have, but ultimately, if we're following the law of love, Jesus' law of love, we're not thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about others. And here's what I want you guys to know, that I'm asking you, yes, to be sacrificial. I'm asking you, yes, to put others' needs and wants before your own, to not think about yourself as much in that moment. But putting yourselves first doesn't mean that we stop caring about our own selves. Putting others first doesn't mean that we say, hey, I'm going to be a walking doormat that other people can treat incredibly badly. I'm not going to be that person. Because here's the deal, living that way is so unhealthy. It's not what we're called to. Jesus isn't calling us to make sacrifices in spite of ourselves. But we ultimately have to move away from being me-centered thinking. We have to start living in such a way that loves, that thinks about others. Selfishness doesn't mean I never think about myself. It ultimately means that I think of myself less. True freedom is found when you love God and others first. So, what I want you guys to really reflect on and think about, and I know we've never done something like this before, but I want to in this moment. I want each and every one of you guys to close your eyes. Wherever you're at, whether you're here in the worship center, whether you're in the loft, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think about something. Who is something, or what is an individual that I've interacted with that I can love more? Who is someone in my life that I can honestly give more to? I want you to imagine that person. And as you imagine that person, I want you to think, what are some things that I can tangibly do today to love them more? True freedom is found when you love God and love others. And so you're free to be in charge of your own life and to live your life without Jesus. But you'll find greater freedom when you let him lead you. As you guys are imagining that person, I want to ask this question pointedly. Are you allowing Jesus to lead your life? Are you living in complete surrender and freedom? If you're not, my next question to you is why not? Why aren't you letting God lead you? Why haven't you given your life completely over to him in complete surrender? Because ultimately, that sacrificial love is what's going to allow you to be saved. When you give up some of your freedoms in order to love God and others, you'll discover a more fulfilling kind of life. Your relationships will deepen. You'll grow in kindness and patience and forgiveness, compassion and grace. You'll grow closer to God. Christian, I'm speaking to you. Are you allowing yourself to live and to embrace the law of love? Are you living as a true follower of Christ, not worrying about what someone else has done, but living the same exact way that Jesus did? Free people give up their freedoms for others, not because they have to, but because they choose to love. God, thank you for your word. Thank you for the way that you over and over and over again demonstrate to us what it means to be sacrificial. God, I pray for the students that are before me, the students that are upstairs in the loft. I pray that, God, you would do something powerful in their hearts and in their lives. That, Lord, as we've been hearing about our freedom, we know that freedom isn't free. And that at some point, a payment had to be made. And Lord, you paid that penalty. That when you went on the cross, you basically said, it's not about me, but it's about all of you. And so, Lord, I pray that those students would walk boldly in that relationship with you. For those who've never made that decision, who've never taken that step, I pray that, God, that today, tonight, while in their group, that they would raise their hand and say, hey, I want to know more about Jesus. I want to know what it means to give my life over to Jesus. Again, Lord, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that you are. Thank you for all that you've done for us. We love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.